get one of these bad boys.
Okay.
Do you think HR is improving as a field, as a discipline? I mean, are HR practitioners getting wiser, more knowledgeable? Is the field advancing and the market becoming more efficient?
Oh yeah, it's time-lapse photography.
Okay.
We can't see the differences, but over time you'll be able to see the massive amount of changes in the seasons, if you will, of this time-lapse photography. The more tools we have, the more pressure of those tools to create analytics and to understand why things are happening, and predictability and forecasting, etc. The single biggest barrier to HR right now is actually time management. Right. It's not what we think is their barrier. Like a lot of people mistakenly, I think it's IQ or we have just the wrong people in those positions. That's not true. The truth is their day is acting as the customer service arm of the corporation, serving as employees, answering phones, talking with people, doing their job.
Administrative stuff, basically.
And that's 60 hours of their week, is doing that. If we could ever figure out ways, plural, to then give them back their time.
Or create an independent talent arm that has nothing to do with HR, legal, admin, and
there's some companies that do that.
Yeah.
There's some companies that do that, and actually there's quite a few companies that do this, people operations. Yeah. We don't even call it HR. And they've given things like payroll back to finance. Yeah. And they've given time and attendance or time tracking to the departments, and it's basically they've outsourced, for a better phrase, they've outsourced some of those tactical regions of HR that there really isn't as much value in. Yeah. And so on one level, to answer the question, I think that we don't see the incremental changes in HR.
It's going very slow.
It's going very slow. And then the other is if we can figure out, and as we figure out ways to give them their time back, there's a bunch of great HR leaders out there that want to do what's next.
Yeah. I mean, do you think that's why HR has such a bad reputation? Because they're so enslaved by, routine. I mean, as psychologists at least, IO psychologists or practitioners use, human remains instead of human resources as a derogatory figure. But I think because when you tell HR people, they don't think of the creative opportunities and talent acquisition and how transformational good HR can be, but they think about all these dilapidated bureaucratic processes that the Department of No, or the Soviet Department of Agriculture.
If you can get to the great HR leaders that are out there, it forces us to deal with. It's almost like dealing with all of those biases you talked about earlier, confronting those biases. Yeah. When you interact with great HR leaders, they're thinking beyond you. Yes. And it's unfortunate because they're rare. They're not the commonplace, they're not the mass market. But I mean, if we were in Silicon Valley having this discussion, the people that do work at Facebook or work at Twitter or things like that, Google Analytics, people analytics.
The reason why they rebranded it People Analytics.
It's genius.
Yeah.
I mean, it's absolute genius because what they're saying is, it's all based on data. So the archetype of HR is that it's all art and very little science. It's all gut. It's, experience. And it frustrates a lot of people because, intellectual people know that it's not just all art and all anecdotal, that there's got to be some data out there that can inform us of some decisions. And so, Google comes on the other end of it and say, actually, data should inform every decision, at least to a degree. Yeah. There's still a human element. We don't have robots making human talent decisions at Google. However, data informs. Data, you lead with data, and then you can wrap a human wrapper around it. That's so far ahead of mainstream. The mainstream, if we were in Topeka having this discussion, we would be talking about data 20-30%. Yeah. And anecdotal art, experience, for the last 20 years, we did it this way, we learned this, and every year we do that. The more those folks take on data, and what's cool about the software world is they're pushing data. Yeah. They're taking things out of different systems, they're pushing data, and they're informing you know, those buyers, and they're saying, actually, and you know, Hogan does this too, but on the personality side, no, there's some things that you should know. There's some things that you should be thinking about. The more that happens, the more that HR changes, and it's going to change that internal, that you know, metronome, if you will, of art and science. It's going to be more and more and more science, and this has happened in marketing. So it's not like this is like, you know, oh my gosh, this is revolutionary. It's not really that revolutionary. Marketing 15 years ago was mostly art and very little science. Now it's mostly science and very little art.